Quarterbacks in Braden Cisse from South Carolina and Damani Jackson out of Alabama. They also added a pass rusher in Penn State's Danny Dennis Sutton and an interior force in Missouri's Chris McClellan. The lone offensive player, center Jagger Burton from Kentucky. Well, they also drafted the lone kicker in the draft, and Trey Smack from Florida. It's the first time they've drafted just 6 players since 2004. GM Brian Gutekunst said it was not their plan going into the weekend to make so few picks.
I'd like to think it's we were letting the board talk to us, and that's what it kind of told us to do. And but yeah, I certainly would love more picks, more players. That's always kind of the preference, but I think that's the way it fell for us, and I think we acted appropriately.
Packers have since added a double-digit number of undrafted free agents to bolster the rookie numbers. Turning to Wisconsin, they did not have anyone drafted for the first time since 1978. More than 10 Badgers, though, have landed as undrafted free agents. However, Wisconsin did add to their 2027 recruiting class today in the form of 3-star safety DJ Davis from Delaware. Chose Wisconsin over offers from Penn State, West Virginia, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and others. He's commit number 10 in the class.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences, now Abbott, has teamed up with UW Athletics to help promote cancer prevention and early detection. The Exact Sciences Athletes Program is unique as it connects UW student athletes with the company's work to provide breakthroughs in cancer care and treatment. UW student athletes helping raise cancer awareness to make a difference in the Madison community. Learn more at uwbadgers.com/Exact Sciences Athletes.
Well, the Brewers are off today. They'll get back in action tomorrow night when they open a series against the Diamondbacks at American Family Field. Milwaukee avoided getting swept yesterday by beating the Pirates 5-0. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Most seasons are determined by the guys that are coming back, not necessarily the guys you're getting to the draft. These guys are just starting their NFL journey, and there's so much in front of them. I feel really good about all of them, and I think they're going to have, a chance to have an opportunity to be very good players in this league. But, you don't win the Super Bowl during the draft. Certainly, I felt like over the course of this 3 days that we did some good things to help our football team and help the group that's coming back. It remains to be seen how these guys' NFL careers will go. Yeah, I felt good about our team before this weekend. These guys, I think, are going to be really good additions to our locker room and in our football team, and I think they'll help us. But, tomorrow's another day, and we'll see if there's areas we can improve, and if we can, we will.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
As Brian Gutekunst, I believe in his final presser. I don't know how many times he talked in total. I think he spoke after the first round, just because, why not? And then again after day 2. And then I think the big banana presser after day 3. Just kind of a big picture comment from Gutekunst, how he feels about the class, how he approached the draft. Far from the most interesting thing he said, but that just gets us into the show. I thought it was a nice overview of how he views the class and his philosophy on what the draft means to a football team. So that's why I selected that cut to begin. This is the Wisco Sports Show presented tonight by Road America. Hope you had a great weekend. Your week is off to a good start. We have lots to discuss. I don't like the draft. Well, I always say that. I don't think that's true. I don't like the months leading up to the draft where we all have got my R-Lads scouting guide here, and we're talking about 40-yard dash times, and we're talking about, broad jumps and all that stuff. That does nothing for me. The NFL draft might as well just be a football game. We watched the Packers play a type of football game this weekend. And now there is a result. There's a scoreboard. We have 6 players they selected, and we can nitpick, and we can talk about the reasons we like those players or those picks and reasons that we don't. So I'm all in on this. I don't need the numbers and the heights and the weights and the consensus boards and all that stuff for months leading up to the draft. So very excited for tonight's show. Hope to take lots of your calls as well at 608-321-1670. You can comment on the live stream as well. It's up and running. Download the Wisco Sports Zone app. The show also streams for your convenience. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisco Grant, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook page as well. From 10,000 feet, I really like this Packers draft class. I'm never going to overcomplicate the draft. I'm not going to be someone to gnash teeth over taking a player at 30 versus 25. I'm never really going to get all that bent out of shape about sticking and picking versus using a late round pick to jump up and get a guy. Like you can listen to the draft nerds. It's like the draft is its own thing. It actually stops being football. And it for some folks, it's very interesting. It's like a marketplace. It's like economics, supply and demand and value and surplus value and all this stuff. And if that's your thing, that's cool. It's not my thing. You can listen to draft nerds break it down almost like a big stock market. And they'll talk about value and they'll compare it to the consensus board and et cetera, all that stuff. My interests, the way I view this thing, what players did they add? What positions do they play? And what little clues can we scrap together about how they project into the NFL? No one will know. We can't know. Nobody knows how good any of these players are going to be. But we can look for clues and we can try to draw our best conclusions here in late April. So that's what I'm interested in, right? Who did they draft? What positions do they play is really what I'm most interested in. And then can we scrap any little details about their college careers? Can we draw any conclusions to current players that might give us an idea? Oh, this player is probably going to work out, and here's why. This player is going to be really good, and this is why. This player might have a red flag. Maybe I'm scared about this guy working out, and here's why. The 6 positions they took in the order they were taken, just to give you a little recap: cornerback, D tackle, edge rusher, center, although flexible. I don't think he only plays center. Jagger Barden, Jagger something. Sounds like maybe he could play guard too. So center, cornerback, and kicker. Lovely. Love that. Multiple bodies added in the defensive backfield and on the defensive line. And they got a true center. Now, he might not play center this year, may never play center. But they haven't exactly had a true center on this roster since Josh Myers was here. And Josh Myers wasn't really that good. So what does that mean? Since Corey Linsley? Holy balls, that's a long time ago now that I think about it. I don't know how many years, but that's closer to 10 years than 5 years. When was Corey Linsley done here? I think it was before the pandemic, right? They've needed an injection of bodies at the corner position for 3 years. They finally did it. I think the board fell in a way, and Goody confirmed this, I think, in his post-presser. Although the general manager's never going to say, we hate how the board fell. We didn't want any of these guys, but we were forced to take them, which I'm sure happens sometimes. But looking at the players they selected and the types of players they wanted, the positions they needed, I think it fell well for them. They got Brandon Cisse? It's going to take me months to commit these names to memory. Yeah, the corner. That's a good value that he was available in the second round and they didn't have to move up. I think that gave them some flexibility the rest of the draft, that they checked that corner box early and now are like, okay, well, now we can just take players. And we'll get another corner at some point, but it doesn't need to be right away. They've needed an injection at corner. They finally did that. 2 bodies. They got more bodies on the defensive line where they just lack guys. I think they're lacking talent on the O-line. They're just straight up lacking bodies on the D-line with injuries and departures this offseason. And they need a true center. Now, maybe Sean Ryan is that guy this year. And maybe this fella, this Jaeger Burton guy, maybe they move him around. Or maybe he is the starting center this year and maybe Sean Ryan plays guard. I don't know. But I really like the positions that they added. And I'm learning about the players. With only 6 picks, they can't address everything. And I don't think there's a team in football who can address everything unless they just really strictly draft for need. And I think that harms your ability to get actual good difference-making players. But the Packers only took 6 guys. So that limits their ability to address everything. They didn't take a wide receiver. And they only took 1 offensive lineman. That's only 1 pick on offense. Now, Goody said in his post-game presser, his post-draft presser on Saturday, not how we planned going into the draft. It's not like we said, hey, we're good on offense. We don't need to take anyone. It's just kind of how it went. But I think in watching this draft pass by and watching how the Packers handled selections and the positions of those selections, I think they're telling and showing us exactly how they feel about their offense. I was listening to Locked On Packers this morning. Peter Bukowski made a great point. The Packers are showing you exactly how they feel about the wide receiver group. They extended Jaden Reed on Friday. I mean, that's almost 2 on the nose. It's not only that they're signaling, hey, he's a part of our future. We value who he is and what he does. They did it on draft day. That's almost signaling like, no, we're not looking to draft and replace Jaden Reed. In fact, we're going to sign him today before we even take a pick. I mean, the timing of it was perfect. So they really went with that Jaden Reed extension. They told you exactly how they feel. We also learned over the weekend, we got confirmation. This was expected, but both in interviews with Goody and Matt LaFleur, this was published and sourced by lots of folks. A Christian Watson extension is expected at some point. So it's Watson, Golden, Reed, Kraft, and I guess whatever Savion Williams is. I don't know. I just feel like I need to see him play more. I don't even know what to do with him this offseason. I don't know. But that's their group, and they're happy with it. If they weren't happy with it, they wouldn't have extended Jaden Reed and or they would have drafted some receivers. I think the Packers showed you exactly how they feel about their O-line, which I think might be the biggest story of this offseason, especially coming out of a draft in which they only selected one offensive lineman. I think it's the biggest story of the offseason. They like their 5. They're clear with their 5. I screenshotted this exchange from Zach Jacobson and Peter Bukowski. Zach tweeted, every problem the Packers faced on offense last year, every single one stemmed from the offensive line performing below average as a unit. If they're even moderately better this year, the offense isn't going to skip a beat. And Peter, again, I'm kind of stealing this take from him, but he said the Packers told us pretty loudly and clearly they believe in their 5. We'll see if they're right. Mike Clemens asked Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur about the O-line. I'll get you that audio as the show progresses here. The Packers told us, we feel good with Jordan Morgan, Banks, Ryan, Belton, Tom, or maybe somebody waiting in the wings, maybe Monk, although I would be shocked, or this new guy, Jager Burton, maybe they really like him. They're happy with this 5. If the Packers are right in their assessment of their offensive line, this could be a Super Bowl roster. Super Bowl roster. I'm not convinced they're a Super Bowl team for all of the DNA coaching personality questions that we've talked about since they lost 5 in a row to end the year. So Super Bowl team, no, I'm not believing in that. Not yet. It's a Super Bowl roster if they're right that this O-line is good and better than last year and it's fixed. If they are wrong and we get the same offensive line we saw last year, or even worse, I don't think this roster is capable of winning the North. The offensive line is such a big part of this offseason, and I've been talking about it really since free agency began because it became such a big friggin' story. Drew Dahlman retiring in Chicago, and they have injuries at tackle, right? Who's the tackle? I almost want to say Monty Ossenfort, but that guy works for the Cardinals. I can't remember the tackle's name. Had a big-time knee injury in the playoffs. So they're missing their center. They're missing their tackle. Detroit is dealing with retirements up there. They're losing some of their stalwarts of their O-line. They're kind of having to rebuild. And the Packers had really an average or below average year on their offensive line for the first time in forever. The Bears and Ben Johnson, the Lions and Dan Campbell, and the Packers. The O-line is crucial to all 3 operations. And all 3 O-lines struggled and let them down last year. I would say the Bears maybe didn't struggle, but the Bears now lost their center and are missing a tackle. So that's something they need to address moving forward because their line is changing. The Packers and the Lions struggled. They need to fix it. The Bears need to prepare to deal with some absences that they didn't have to deal with last season. Whichever of those 3 teams best fixes or best, I guess, reinforces or realigns their offensive line going into next year, I think has the inside track at the division. The Vikings are a massive wild card, and I don't really know what to do with their O-line. I guess if Darrisaw is back to being healthy and a stud, that fixes a lot of things. If he's Bakhtiari 2.0, where you don't know what you're getting week in and week out, with the knee, that's the best player on their O-line. That's going to be a struggle, but I kind of set the Vikings to the side. The Bears, the Packers, the Lions all had either bad offensive lines last year or had off-season questions on the O-line going into next year. The way that those 3 teams fix or fail to fix the line is going to be a big part of the story of the NFC North next year. Oh, and lastly, I was surprised that Brian Gutekunst used 2 7th-round picks to jump up and take a kicker. I was surprised. Trey Smack from Florida. Just reading some stories and looking at some draft guides. Looks like he was the top kicker in this draft class, if such a thing exists. This selection at the very end of the draft caught me off guard. Basically spent 3 picks to go and get a kicker, not an offensive lineman or another D tackle or a corner, but a kicker. I was a little surprised. And then it occurred to me, oh yeah, that's right. Brandon McManus sucked balls last year. How could I have? We've been talking about so many other things this offseason, like the coach and the roster. I forgot the kicker was a disaster in December and January. How could I have forgotten? That's right. So now the Packers have drafted a kicker, and I don't have strong opinions on it. But as a radio talk show host, I am thrilled because I can't think of better offseason content and training camp content than the Packers not only drafting a kicker, but trading up to draft a kicker, which I don't care about, but I know you guys do. They didn't just take him. They traded up to get him, which I don't. It was the same thing with Jordan Love. They didn't just draft Jordan Love. They traded up to get Jordan Love. It's like, well, They took him either. Why is that? Why do you get hung up on that? That's so weird to me. It's whatever. They took a kicker. You don't have to like it, but don't yell at me like, well, they gave up an extra 7th to go get him. That I don't care about that. But I know you do. I can think of no better offseason fodder than team trades up to get kicker. There will be 3-man kicker competition in camp, unless they just boot Haversack at the beginning, but I don't know why they would feel the need to do that. So it's going to be Trey Smack, this feller from Florida, Brandon McManus, and Lucas Haversack. Great for the talk show. Excellent fodder, great content. I don't know what to do. I can't sit here and tell you that I've studied Trey Smack's film. I really like the way his foot strikes the ball. It's a really good drive. We all just make up scouting language anyway. He's got real balanced hips. His knees align very properly. I mean, I should just make up an alias and just say that I'm a draft analyst, and I'll do radio hits and I'll just throw out cliches. I can do it about kickers. The swivel is really the inside to outside swivel is as smooth as I've seen. Oh yeah. People eat that slop up. I had almost forgotten that Brandon McManus was terrible in that playoff game and just mostly bad throughout the season. In a day and age where it's never been easier to make field goals, that guy is making it look hard. So I had that revelation on Saturday. It's like, oh, they drafted a kicker. Why? Oh yeah, that's right. Because the guy they have blows. Aha. How could I have forgotten? We've been so focused on complaining about Matt LaFleur all offseason that I forgot all about the kicker. My bad. I'll take your calls on the draft class. So many comments from both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst that I want to play and sprinkle in throughout tonight's show. Oh, and by the way, especially for our listeners in Madison on WOZN, it is not gone unnoticed in the studio that the Badgers didn't have a draft pick. Oh, we'll talk about that. But I really want to separately discuss that. I want to give that topic its full due. I don't just want to sprinkle that in. So we'll get to that in hour number 2. We can rip UW for not having a draft pick. But I want to start with the Packers. In your phone calls on all 6 players they drafted, including a kicker. How lucky are we on Sports Talk Radio? 608-321-1670 to you right after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin weather doesn't ease into spring. It keeps you guessing. That's why your windows and doors need to handle everything. At Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, we build for year-round comfort. Now get 0% interest until 2030. That's years of no interest, so you can upgrade now and pay over time. Plus, enjoy a free in-home consultation, expert installation, and a 10-year limited warranty. But order by April 30th. Schedule today at PellaWI.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Brian, when you have that kicking competition later this summer, how do you make sure you don't lean toward Trey because you traded up?
Sure. No, I think that's, as we go through that, I think that's one thing. We've done a pretty good job, here. And I think it's, in some ways, we've always had a little bit of an advantage because, we don't have an owner. We're not trying to prove something to an owner. We can just kind of let the best players win the job. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how we'll approach it. We got some talented guys in that room. We're going to have to figure that out. But I did think it was important to add competition to that. And certainly we thought he was the best kicker in this draft. And I think, Cam had a very strong opinion about that, and as did I. And I thought, I felt fortunate to be able to acquire him.
It's Matt Schneidman asking the question, and I don't even care about the answer. The question there is the interesting part to me, because the question is the only thing you need to hear. Matt Schneidman asks, hey, you traded 2 picks to move up and draft this guy. How do you make sure that you don't slant the kicking competition towards him in the fall? And Brian Gutekunst cannot answer that question, although he gave a nice politically correct answer. They're going to tilt it to him because they want him to win. The job of a general manager, the goal of a general manager is to get better, younger, cheaper. So, yeah, they want Trey Smack to be the kicker. If he's awful, they're not going to force it. How can you make sure that, the kicking competition isn't slanted? It will be. Just by the nature of the way these teams are built. It's a great question by Matt Schneidman. Unfortunately, there's no great answer, unless Brian Gutekunst is going to be 100% honest, which obviously he can't be, because you can't say, we hope he wins the job because we'd really like to replace Brandon. So that's the draft pick that might give us the most run on Sports Talk Radio, because trading up to take a kicker is just, that's content manna from heaven. But they did take 5 other guys who are probably more important to the team. Some corners, defensive linemen, and 1 offensive lineman, which is worth mentioning and discussing. Might be a true center. 608-321-1670. Your thoughts on this Wisco Sports Show? Who's this?
Grant, I just can't believe they traded us to take a kicker.
Yeah.
Just seems like bad process, in my opinion.
So I would agree. I know they drafted Anders Carlson. Here's the thing, though. Unlike Anders Carlson, this guy actually made his kicks in college, or so I read. I knew nothing about him. But he was actually accurate and made a lot of kicks, where Anders Carlson's like, well, he's got a strong leg, a toolsy kicker.
Yeah, but he was the only kicker drafted in the draft.
Correct.
This Trey Smack guy. And I don't really like the name Trey Smack as a kicker.
Yeah.
That's more of a SEC quarterback name, Pac-12 quarterback maybe.
Unless he's good. That's the thing. If he stinks, this is a catastrophe. If he's good, this is the coldest white boy in the NFL with a sick name. Can you not see that side of it if he's good?
I can, for sure. But, it's going to be a long process to get there.
You answered that so diplomatically. Oh, I can. This is a ridiculous question. No, Cone, you're a Sports Talk Radio junkie. We got to make it through OTAs. We're going to be tracking who's making kicks. Then we get into training. This is going to be an exhaustive process.
Yeah, and Schneidman, it just makes perfect sense. He's the one that asked it, because his Twitter feed and during summer camp is all, kicker competition.
And Domofsky's head, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, that lame bit. But, yeah, and for whatever reason in Packers summer camp, they only let the kickers, kick 50 field goals or something.
That's right.
It's quite bizarre.
No, you're right, because they limit. Yeah. We're so back. I forgot about all of this. because the last time, I mean, they brought in McManus to fix things, but I remember when they drafted Carlson, we had to watch all this stuff like a hawk. And then I know they bait and switched Narveson after Greg Joseph was making kicks in camp. I guess this was only a couple of years ago. Let's just hope this process goes better than the last time. I don't think drafting a kicker is horrible process, Cone. I guess what's true is the kickers that are drafted are not significantly more likely to work out. It's not that they're worse. It's just there doesn't seem to be in the data a huge difference between kickers who are drafted and undrafted free agents. My thing is I don't care about the 7th round picks. You know what I mean? Like I just don't care about that part of it. So go ahead and draft it. I don't care. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, maybe they could find like some random offensive weapons. I mean, we just happy with going into next season with Marshawn Lloyd as our RB2? So that's where I would have liked to see, one of those 7th round picks go to use. And before I go, can I just say one thing about Kyle Harrison? Yesterday?
Yes. Brewers pitcher. Yep.
That was straight up ace behavior, what he did yesterday. Just team struggling. They need to win. The offense is just completely inept. And he comes out there 6 innings scoreless and just shoves it. He might not be an ace, but he behaved like an ace yesterday.
Ace behavior, ace tendencies, Cone. That's a great point. I appreciate the call. I'm going to get to that. I'll give you 8 minutes or so on Kyle Harrison and the Brewers in the weekend at the very end of this hour. It's funny you mentioned Marshawn Lloyd. I have some comments that I found interesting from both Goody and LaFleur. We can hit that next after our 5-minute break. But just to put a pin in Trey Smack, it's just I'm just laughing. It's gonna be hard for me to take this player and this kicker seriously this summer because really all I see when I look at a story about Trey Smack or when I look at stats is like sports radio gift. It's like it's there's a Christmas tree and underneath it is this guy, this skinny white boy from Florida. It's like this is gonna do numbers for us on sports talk radio this summer. A little background on Trey Smack. So the Anders Carlson comparison is interesting because Anders Carlson just like wasn't a very good kicker in college. He had a really strong leg, and Bisaccia knew, you know what I mean? He was the Rashawn Gary of kickers. Like, we love his stuff. We love what he's made of. We're going to get him in here and we'll coach him up. Trey Smack just straight up made a lot of kicks. This is from Pro Football Talk. The Packers drafted Anders Carlson in the 6th round in 2023, but he missed 11 kicks his rookie season and never played for them again after that. Smack is a 2-time Groza semifinalist and one of only 3 FBS kickers to make 5 field goals of 50-plus yards in 2025. He made a 57-yarder in the Shrine Bowl. Smack made 82.8% of his kicks in college. Accurate, made long kicks. And I don't know that means he'll be any good in the NFL. Who knows? My only point is this is not Anders Carlson because Anders Carlson kind of sucked in college. It's all coming back to me now. We're doing it again. We are so back. Brad and Sturgeon Bay on Brandon McManus last year. They not only lost the playoff game, but also a few more because of missed kicks. Last season could have felt a whole lot better if McManus made a couple more extra points and field goals. Absolutely. And part of that, like Cleveland, they just couldn't get it blocked up. They get an extra point blocked. So I don't put that on McManus. But did he miss kicks against the Eagles at home? I can't remember. Certainly the Chicago game. I mean, what a disaster. But we've been so busy this offseason, belly aching with good reason about Matt LaFleur. It was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Their kicker was a catastrophe at the end. How could I have forgotten? That's right. I'll give you some more commentary on the rest of their draft class, although I think the lightning rod is going to be this kicker. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so thrilled for the talk show. We'll talk about the rest of the draft class and Marshawn Lloyd, because they didn't take a running back. 7th round would have been fertile ground for them to do so. As Cone Roller mentioned, there were some other running backs came off the board in the 7th round, and they had 2 picks in the 7th round. So we'll discuss that. Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur seem cocksure that they can count on Marshawn Lloyd's talent. We'll see if he can stay healthy. I'll give you that commentary when we come back and more of your thoughts.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Certainly would love more picks, more players. That's always kind of the preference. But I think that's the way it fell for us. I think we acted appropriately, allowing the board to speak to us. And that's what it kind of told us to do, and not trying to do something that was out of character for us. The way that our board was falling, we knew that the big guys, there wasn't going to be a lot of them, left. I'd like to think that we were letting the board talk to us, letting the board talk, letting the board talk.
Terrible song parody. One of the greatest songs of all time, Stick Talk. Brian Gutekunst just kept saying, "Boy, we were letting the board talk last night. We're letting the board speak to us." It's just kind of funny. I think he did it multiple times. Talks about the board, some living, breathing thing. Stick Talk, my God. What a great song. Reacting to the Packers draft. I'll give you 5 minutes on the Brewers before 5 o'clock. And I know the Badgers, we're not letting the Badgers off the hook. Mason Reiger and Vinny Anthony didn't get drafted. We will address it in full. I want plenty of time to do that, so we're going to save it for the second hour. More of your phone calls as well at 608-321-1670. Two positions that I thought were sneaky needs that we talked about last week. They went undressed. They went what's the word I'm looking for? Not undressed. Unaddressed. It's an important couple of letters. They went unaddressed. Tight end and running back. And Matt LaFleur was actually asked, or was it Brian Gutekunst, about tight end? Would you have liked to add a player there? And he said pretty clearly, that's something we're working on right now. We would have loved to come out of this draft with another Y tight end, which I think is like, they would have liked to have another blocker, another Fitzpatrick, Sims, Wiley, somebody like that. Or shoot, I mean, another Tucker Kraft would be great, but you don't necessarily expect to hit on that. A guy who can block his ass off and then also, be a force in the passing game. We would have liked another wide tight end. A lot of those guys came off the board in this draft. I was listening to Bukowski's podcast this morning just to get caught up. The Locked On Packers podcast is for the fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how, and that's me. Clearly, I'm such an educated Packers fan, so I was listening to Peter. Sorry, I love Pete. And he pointed out, I think the Packers would have loved to take a wide tight end in this draft, but they just flew off the board because I think everybody's now looking at what the Rams did with the 3 tight end sets. Well, the funny thing is once the whole league starts targeting tight ends and trying to get more tight ends on the field, it won't become an advantage anymore. It's just going to become this trend. Anyways, they didn't take any tight ends. They also didn't take any running backs. And I think both of the 7th round picks they used to trade up to take the kicker, if the kicker doesn't work out, or if Josh Jacobs gets hurt or something like that, I'm going to look at those couple of picks and said, man, really would have been well served to maybe add a running back. I'll give you a Q&A both from Pete Doherty to Brian Gutekunst and to Matt LaFleur. And the question in both is, well, you can't really trust Marshawn Lloyd, so what do you now do at backup running back? Here's Pete first with Brian Gutekunst, and then I'll give you LaFleur second.
What are you going to do at backup running back? I mean, you can't count on Lloyd because of the injury history.
I think it's one of those things. I mean, certainly we can count on his talent. We just got to get him out there and keep him healthy. If he's out there and healthy, we know he can help. If he's healthy, we know he can help us. Certainly bringing Chris Brooks back, that was a big part of that. We have a lot of faith in him to be able to do things we do. So like I said, I feel very good about that group. We'll see as it goes. If we feel we need to add to it, we will. But right now, I don't really think we need to.
We can rely on his talent. We can't rely on his physicality. And Matt LaFleur kind of echoing that. I'll play his comments and then give you my take.
Number 2, running back. You can't count on Lloyd because of the health issues, can you?
Well, I think he's shown up. He looks like he's in great shape, and we're hopeful that he can put his best stuff out there. I mean, certainly talent's never been an issue for him. And we've got some other guys that we feel good about as well. So I think that's going to be one that we'll monitor throughout the course of the offseason.
Just give me 1 second. I'll get to the phone calls. I bristle a little bit hearing the general manager and the coach continuously say, well, we know if he's healthy, he can help us. Talent's not the issue. I don't know that. It hasn't been the issue. The issue so far has been health. But they talk about Marshawn Lloyd like we've seen him play, and he's been awesome. We haven't. What has he played? Like 2 snaps? And I guess he looked okay on that one carry where he bounced out and he ran really fast. But then what did he do? He pulled his hamstring and we never saw him again. So the assumption that, well, as long as he's healthy, he can help us. We don't know that. It's a thin running back room. And I know Chris Brooks is back and I like that player, but he's more of like a Brandon Jackson than a James Starks behind Ryan Grant. Like, I don't want him being the second bell cow. I want the third down, change of pace, pass catching, pass blocking guy. if Chris Brooks is your second running back, I don't know. And Josh Jacobs is great. But I think we've seen Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur. We're already seeing it with the other LaFleur in Arizona. Running back is a really important position for these coaches. The difference that a high-level player makes. And if the drop-off after Josh Jacobs is precipitous, their running game is going to struggle, especially if the O-line doesn't ball at a high level like it didn't last year, and they haven't changed it. So I don't know. I just have some skepticism around the O-line, the running game, and the players that are involved. All right, to your phone call, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Jordan.
Hey, Jordan, what's going on?
Hey, man. So I'm kind of repeating something you already said, essentially, but I liked the draft overall, but I agree. I was a little surprised by no movement in the running back world because at this point, Marshawn, Mr. Glass, Lloyd he's just like an idea. Like he's not a real thing. Like he's this potential, which doesn't really mean a lot. And in college, he was great, but this isn't college. So I think overall it was great. And I have to just hardcore disagree with that other caller, man. Trey Smack is the coolest name ever for a kicker. Can you just see the cheese from the announcers? Oh, he smacks the ball. He really smacked that one.
Yeah,
Larry That's Trey Smack.
Larry will have a good line on that, I'm sure. He'll have something.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be corny and amazing. But overall, I thought they addressed needs well while kind of doing what they do, drafting the best available player. I thought Brandon Cisse was a slam dunk in the second round. Overall, yeah, I don't really have any beef with it. I heard a lot of people say stuff like, oh, he only drafted 6 players. But what are you really getting out of the 7th round draft picks anyway? So I don't know. I liked it.
Well, so I like the draft too. There's just so much we don't know. Jordan, I appreciate the call. I like the positions and I like the process they used. I don't think they reached on guys, maybe other than a kicker. I don't know. It seems like Cisse was good value. I didn't expect this fella from Penn State to be there. Bukowski was singing his praises last week. Dennis Sutton. I thought the Packers might have to take him in the 2nd round. He goes all the way to the 3rd. The Packers, Gutekunst talked on Saturday night that they were maybe even, looking to trade back up into the 3rd to try to get him. And then he was just available when they got to him in the 4th. So I like their process. I like the positions. Who knows what they'll turn into? It's almost like a garden, right? Like they've planted seeds and they've watered the seeds in the right spot. They've planted the right kind of seeds and they've watered that. We'll see what grows. I don't know. Now, to say, well, who are they going to get in the 7th round anyways? Here's where I push back a little bit on that because we can't have it both ways. And Bill pointed this out earlier today. It's like, we can't talk about, well, there's value anywhere. Donald Driver was a 7th round pick. Oh, good point. But then, so when the Packers miss on a 1st round pick, or they don't have a 1st round pick like they don't this year, we'll say, well, what's the difference anyways? I mean, Donald Driver was a 7th round pick. There's good players everywhere. Okay. Or then the Packers trade away a 7th round pick. And then it's all of a sudden, well, I mean, who are they even getting in the 7th round pick? Okay. So either all of these picks have value or they don't. You know what I mean? So I guess I don't agree, Jordan, that, well, there was nothing they could have done with those 7th round picks. They could have added another running back or another tight end. And maybe there weren't any worthwhile players there. Or maybe the Packers astutely drew the conclusion there's enough players available as undrafted free agents. There's no sense in us holding on to these picks to draft one because somebody we like just as much will be available on the open market. Maybe. I don't know their calculus and their thought process behind it. But to say that there was nothing they could have done with those 7th round picks, there were some running backs that came off the board, and I think the Packers could use one. I think they could use a tight end too, but I think the league maybe went a little hog wild and overdrafted. I mean, who was the guy that the Jags drafted in the 3rd round? I just saw everyone flipping out over that pick. I think the league got very tight end hungry, and I think a lot of teams and general managers were looking at what the Rams were doing and saying, well, they ran all these 3 tight end sets. We should do that. When in reality, the Rams did that because that's what their personnel fit, and it was a nice little wrinkle. If the rest of the league tries to start doing that, it's not going to be advantage. The second that something becomes an accurate measure, or what's the word? It's the soon as something becomes a something, it's no longer a something. You know what? Forget it. A couple of texts. Jim and Cottage, I shouldn't even brought it up. Something, when something becomes a goal or a target, it fails to become an accurate measure, right? So as soon as you're like dialed in to try to hit a certain number, well, that number doesn't matter anymore because you're not focused on the bigger picture thing. You're just focused on the thing. The Rams ran 3 tight end sets last year to maximize their offense. Now teams are going to try to maximize running 3 tight end sets if that's what they're doing. And that's the point. I think I might have even muddied the waters even worse there. Jim in Cottage Grove. Everybody was bitching and complaining about special teams. I understand why they went and got a kicker, but at the same time, I think they should have looked for a top-notch headhunter to go down on kickoffs rather than a kicker. I don't know what that means. And I'm sorry, Jim. I'm sure there's a good point buried in there. You are right that people have been bitching about special teams, and this offseason they have signed Sky Moore and drafted a kicker. So you're right. We complain a lot about special teams. They are doing something about special teams. I think you're making a joke, and I don't get it, and that's on me. I'm sorry. Rockin' Rick says, don't we have Brooks backing up Josh Jacobs? They do have Chris Brooks, and he's a fine player. If Josh Jacobs has to miss a month, I don't know that the running game is going to be very strong with Chris Brooks. I like him situationally. Certainly a player. I'd trust him out there on 3rd and 4th down. I'd trust the ball going to him on an important 3rd or 4th down, a little dump off or an angle route. Like I trust him, but it's not a matter of trust or skills. It's more a matter of volume at that position. I would love a young guy who can offer a little something. And I guess that should be Marshawn Lloyd. I just think the Packers are insane to expect anything from him. Rye guy says, Grant, I like the kicker pick. Hopefully Green Bay won't be playing musical kickers. Is it true Jacobs' brother is practicing with Green Bay? Yeah, I guess they signed Josh Jacobs' brother to the practice squad. I'm sure there are some very good pieces being written about that. I encourage you to go read them because I have not. I'm learning about the 6 guys that they drafted. And I guess we'll get to the undrafted guys in time when we start seeing some practice. And if some of them start popping, then we'll get to that. But good for Josh Jacobs' brother. I guess when it's Josh Jacobs, it's cool. When it's Giannis, it's not so much. I'll give you a couple of minutes on the Brewers next. More of your texts and calls. And remember the Monday mailbag. We'll conclude the show in exactly 1 hour. So submit your questions. GrantBills21, gmail.com.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but I think just fastball command, starting out, and then, as the innings went on, I think it was just mixing a good amount of change-ups. I mean, showed it early, so that was huge just to let him know I'm throwing it in the zone. And, yeah, I thought the slider took a step forward today and was able to use that to expand out of the zone. So, yeah, tunneling was a little bit better today.
That was it, he had his off-speed stuff today, and it was really effective for him. And I thought that was a difference in the game. But William, again, was giving him that confidence by calling it, and was reading the swing. And, the report on Harrison is, go ahead and attack the heater. You're going to get a bunch of them. Well, he gave him heater in a good spot and then used his off speed.
Kyle Harrison and Pat Murphy talking about his outing yesterday. Brewers needed a big nut start, and they got it. And it's not just that he was effective and gave the Brewers length, which is really all they needed yesterday. He struck out 12 through 6 innings. I'll give you a couple minutes on the Brewers here. If you'd like to jump in real quick and talk Brewers, got to be now because we'll get back to the draft at 5. But 608-321-1670, the number. 6 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 12 strikeouts, 1 hit, 1 walk, 23 whiffs. CC Sabathia is the only left-handed pitcher with more Ks through the first 5 games with the Brewers. Ace stuff. Cone Roller made a great point when he called in the second segment of the show and said, hey, I just want to mention with the Brewers, Kyle Harrison might not be an ace, but that was ace stuff. He gave the Brewers what they needed yesterday. A little attitude, I don't know. I don't even know that he was being cocky or that he was being a prick. There's just, when you're striking out 12 through 6 innings, it's not, it's not hard for there to just be a little extra je ne sais quoi. I don't know what that means, but people say it, and it felt right in that moment. There was a little something extra there. The Brewers needed that yesterday. It also was spiritually needed by fans like myself, because the first 2 games of the series had me seriously thinking, like, the Brewers might just be bad, and the Brewers might still be bad. But Friday and Saturday, I'm thinking, this team might just not be good. And this summer might be a letdown in a way we haven't had in a while. And that might suck. Like, maybe I don't like Brandon Woodruff now because the team stinks and it frustrates me to watch him. Maybe Angel Zerpa is my least favorite reliever since Matt Bush. Like, maybe this is what we're doing this summer. And maybe Pat Murphy is going to disintegrate Aaron Ashby all in the name of winning 79 games. Like, I hope that's not what's about to happen, but God, it feels that way. And I know they're injured. I know. So things could change. Things certainly changed last year. But this team doesn't feel all that great right now. And Kyle Harrison yesterday at least gave us a momentary reprieve. And also, the timing of it was funny considering the Red Sox completely blew out every member of their coaching staff. They fired Alex Cora and Jason Varitek and everybody in that building. And the timing of that coincided with, Kyle Harrison did what? The main piece that came back in the Rafi Devers trade, who was then flipped for Caleb Durbin and other pieces of, flotsam and jetsam. Like, yeah, sure, you can have Anthony Siegler and you can have Andrew Monasterio. Sure, we'll take Kyle Harrison and Shane Drohan and we'll make at least one of them work. And Kyle Harrison's been a stud. So if the Brewers are going to suck this year, and maybe they will, it's too early to tell. I mean, it's not early, but it's too early to know how many games they're going to win, especially considering we haven't even seen Jackson Churchill play a game yet. That's a pretty big part of the team. But at least we can hold our heads high and know that Matt Arnold is clearing Dumbo general managers, the same Dumbo general managers for the second straight season. Like, he's gone back to the Craig Breslow well twice now in Boston, and that makes me laugh. That gives me joy. It's not the same amount of joy that I would get if the team was winning at a high level, but beggars can't be choosers right now. I also think yesterday's win was a continuation of a theme that we discussed last week. This offense is a scuffling, and this bullpen is hopefully figuring some things out. It feels like we'll take a couple of steps forward and then a couple of steps back. I don't know, but here's the thing. If their starting pitchers nut up, they're capable of winning games. That's what we saw last week. Or the week before, rolling back over the last 2 weeks. We saw Brandon Woodruff's best start of the year, Brandon Sproat's best start of the year, followed up by another pretty good start, but it wasn't as good as the last one. and Chad Patrick's best start of the year. When the starting pitchers sack up, makes such a big difference in this Brewers, team's ability to win. Like Jacob Mizorowski, for example, I don't even think he's pitched bad this year. Well, I know he hasn't pitched bad. He is not, let me say definitively, he has not pitched bad this year. They have lost his last 4 starts. And in his last 4 starts, he's gone 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 5 1/3, 2 earned runs, 5 1/3, 3 earned runs. They've lost his last 4 decisions. And it's funny because Jacob Mizorowski in all of his starts has been very good with the exception of a batter or 2 or an inning. And that's like, we rip Jacob Mizorowski for that, but it's really not that different than a lot of pitchers. It's like he went 6 1/3 or 5 2/3, and he gave up 2 runs because he lost it for a moment in the 4th inning. Like that's a quality start. That's a good outing. Now you hope occasionally that Miz just goes like, and does what Kyle Harrison did yesterday. He's got that in him. But he hasn't. Jacob Mizorowski in all of his starts has just left the door ajar just a little bit with one hitter or in one inning. And in each of his last 4 starts, that little cracked door has been what's done them in. And I feel that's a little, it's probably a little snake bit. But the margin for error for these starting pitchers is not wide right now. The Brewers can win when Sproat or Patrick or Woodruff or yesterday Harrison come out and shove. That's the recipe. And I don't know that was supposed to be the recipe coming into the year because they're so young. Like Mizorowski's so young. Sproat is embarking as a starter for the first time. Same with Harrison. I like all these arms and I like their stuff and I think they can be good, but it's a little much to ask them to carry a bad team, a bad offense and a bad bullpen right out of the jump. And God bless them, they've actually been able to do it here and there. Woodruff sacked up and did it. Now, he's not young, but he sacked up and did it 2 weeks ago, I believe. What did he pitch? 7 innings? The last week or so starting to run together. The starting pitching is frighteningly important, and they've stepped up. And that's the reason that the Brewers are, 500 instead of 4 or 5 games under. That's the difference right now. They need Churio back so badly. So that's a couple of minutes on the Brewers. I hope you enjoyed. We'll get back to the Packers. We can react to their draft class. We haven't really talked about the players specifically. We've talked about the positions they've addressed or the process with which they drafted some guys. So I'll give you some recurring thoughts on that. And the Badgers, we have not forgotten about you. Oh no. First time since I believe 1978. They've not had a player selected in the NFL draft. And I want to dedicate a whole individual segment to that because we need to. Because UW deserves it. You're going to get it, okay? And I don't just want to sprinkle that in at the end of a segment or at the end of an hour. It gets its whole portion of the show tonight. We'll get into that. Road America, their season is beginning. So roadamerica.com, they present the show every Monday. Go check out their events calendar. Maybe pick and choose. Oh, let's go do a vintage weekend. Let's go see the Indy cars. Let's just go for a sunset cruise. And we can take the RV. We can take the camper, the tents. Be a great place to camp for the weekend as well. So go to roadamerica.com. They're America's national park of speed and definitely worth at least one weekend trip over there this summer, if not multiple, especially if you're a big-time racing fan, auto sports fan. roadamerica.com. I appreciate their support of the show. Certainly one of the cooler things our state has to offer in the summer, no doubt. roadamerica.com. Hour number 2, we'll reset with the Packers draft on the other side of this 2-minute update from Zach Hopper. No commercials, just the headlines. We'll be right back.
This is a Wisconsin
Day off the Brewers. With 5-0 win over the Pirates yesterday afternoon to avoid being swept. Milwaukee struck out 18 batters, including Kyle Harrison getting 12 of them. Admitted it would give him a little bit of a bump in confidence, but only as good as his next outing.
Grows a little for today, I'd say. It's like, yeah, that was a great day, but can't take that with you in the next one. You got to restart and start new, and it's a new week against new opponents. So on to the next one. Per se,
Brewers will open a series against Diamondbacks tomorrow night at American Family Field. Turning to the Packers, they finished out the 2026 NFL Draft on Saturday with 4 more picks, including moving up to get kicker Trey Smack out of Florida in the 6th round. GM Brian Gutekunst made clear that they still like Brandon McManus, but what happened in the playoff game against the Bears this past January can't happen again.
Yeah, I think the kicker spot's very important, right? And we have a couple guys here that we felt good about, but we also wanted to increase that competition and make sure that we come out of this thing with a guy that can go win us games. Brandon's been excellent for us in his time with us, with the exception of that past game, which I think we all recognize. But I feel it's important that we address that and have a guy who can go win us games.
Packers made just a total of 6 picks in the draft.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences, now Abbott, has teamed up with UW Athletics to help promote cancer prevention and early detection. The Exact Sciences Athletes Program is unique as it connects UW student athletes with the company's work to provide breakthroughs in cancer care and treatment. UW student athletes helping raise cancer awareness to make a difference in the Madison community. Learn more at uwbadgers.com/Exact Sciences Athletes.
Wisconsin adds his latest commitment in the 2027 recruiting class. His 3-star safety DJ Davis out of Delaware chose the Badgers over Penn State, West Virginia, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and others. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Most seasons are determined by the guys that are coming back, not necessarily the guys you're getting to the draft. These guys are just starting their NFL journey, and there's so much in front of them. I feel really good about all of them, and I think they're going to have, a chance to have an opportunity to be very good players in this league. But, you don't win the Super Bowl during the draft. Certainly, I felt like over the course of this 3 days that we did some good things to help our football team and help the group that's coming back. It remains to be seen how these guys' NFL careers will go. I felt good about our team before this weekend. These guys, I think, are going to be really good additions to our locker room and in our football team, and I think they'll help us. But tomorrow's another day, and we'll see if there's areas we can improve, and if we can, we will.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2. The Wisco Sports Show tonight presented by Road America, America's National Park of Speed over near Elkhart Lake, roadamerica.com. For all of the ticketing information, the passes, the schedule, everything you need for this summer season. We're reacting to the Packers draft class. And before too long, I want to get to the Badgers. No Badgers were drafted for the first time since 1978. Oh yeah, we're gonna dedicate some time to that. You better believe it. We'll get there. More of your calls and texts. Let's reset with some of those on the draft. Whether it be the Packers trading up to take a kicker, they got a couple corners, an edge, a defensive tackle, no O-lineman. Well, the one O-lineman, but one O-lineman, no wide receivers, no running backs, no tight ends, a much heavier defensive draft. So your reaction to that, 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant Bills, happy Monday.
Or, we could always talk about the Badgers and their lack of draft picks too, whatever is of interest to you, Vagabond John. We got to do that at some point. Might as well be now, if that's what you want to do.
I'm just going to say it. The first smack doink is going to rock so hard, even though obviously, hopefully it's a doink and in. But the first smack doink, I'm excited for.
I think this player has real potential. Anders Carlson looked kind of like a boob and wasn't a good kicker in college. I think this Trey Smack fella looks like a high-level white boy. I think there's potential for this to work out. Now, there's potential for it to fail, too. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not really excited about tracking kickers through training camp, although why does Sports Talk Radio exist if we're not going to do that and get up for it, Vagabond John, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to talk about like the wide receiver that made one good catch that has no chance in hell at making the roster. Let's track made extra points. Kickers. It's going to be exciting. And I agree with you. Little white boy kind of looks like he might have a transfer in Lone Rock, possibly a laminate floor guy.
Yeah.
Great. To be determined. But yeah, the meat of the draft for me, I was golfing with a buddy. It's kind of funny. I show up to the first tee and he goes, so tell me about the draft. You're the guy that's like tuned into sports like at an unhealthy level. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Packers. And I'm like, dude, I am not going to lie. I don't have a lot of Packers analysis. I like drafting a kicker. I'm not going to bitch about special teams for 3 years and then get upset with when my team tries to improve in that area.
Yep.
Right? Like, I'm not going to play that card.
This is Jim from Cottage Grove made this point, texted in earlier. It's like, well, wait, everyone was complaining about special teams. Now they drafted a kicker. Hey, here's the thing. I don't care if you spend a 6th or a 7th round pick or both on drafting a kicker. I don't care. look, if you hate that they drafted a kicker, be mad that they drafted a kicker. What I don't want to hear is, and they traded up to get him. I don't care about that. You're either anti-drafting kicker or you're pro-drafting kicker. I don't want to parse out the details of, well, they could have got him in the 7th, or they could have just stuck in that spot and picked it. That does not interest me.
And we've seen a ton of undrafted free agent rookies pop off as, running backs. So, whether you take them with the 10th to last pick or you're the first to call them after the draft, I don't think that makes much difference. Speaking of undrafted free agents, I got to do some analysis, and this is probably on me. Some people have asked, why haven't you tweeted this yet? We need a full report, not just this year, but of all of the 2022, 2023 Paul Chris Badgers, how many of them got drafted after leaving this program?
Yep.
If you're the dad of one of these kids, and I've talked about the dads of Badger recruits probably enough on these platforms, right? But how can you justify sending your kid to Wisconsin right now? If you're in the transfer portal, right, and 42 kids or whatever the number is made the decision to come to Luke Fickell's program, right? Cincinnati, Grant, brought a guy in from Georgia Southern, turned him into a second-round draft pick. I'm looking at these schools that these kids have been drafted from, and the Big Ten and the SEC dominated. But even some of these, I know Cincinnati is the Big 12 team now, but some of these lesser programs were perceived lesser programs. It was perceived that Wisconsin was a stepping stone up from Cincinnati for Luke Fickell, right?
Mm-hmm.
These programs are taking transfers and turning them into NFL picks. And so for Wisconsin, dominating the transfer portal, perceived every season. You hear the Nick Osen standout players of the practice, right? Wow, this dude looks like a monster. Mason Reiger obviously has the injury history that like Marshawn Lloyd, that you just stay away from if you're a GM. But there's plenty of dudes that we've had brought in from the transfer portal, let alone guys that left Wisconsin. And I'll leave you with this: that 2023 receiving room, when all the cover talk began, right? We're up to 7 total receivers, and I won't, discredit Chris Brooks. He's not been that productive in college, but he has an NFL body. If he goes undrafted, almost every single receiver in that 2023 room would have had, at least a practice opportunity with an NFL team. 7. We're up to 7 receivers in one room. That's the most talented receiving room in program history. Obviously, Skylar Bell, Chimere Dike, but it goes deeper. Keontae Lewis just got a tryout with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield down south, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have all these names that we just wrote off. And, I spent way too much of my life fighting Badger fans on Twitter saying, I don't think that these players suck. Guys, it's possible these coaches suck. And so not only do they suck with the players they brought in themselves, obviously CJ Williams got drafted after leaving the program and going to Stanford, but man, seeing that 2023 receiving room have 7 NFL dudes, or at least dudes during camp, I think 4 or 5 of them confirmed on rosters, chance at 6 making the 52s. But what a day for Wisconsin football. First time since the 70s. We've done first time since the 90s, first time since the 80s. Now we're at the first time. What's next on the list? What's the thing that hasn't happened since the 60s? And what can we look forward to next year? That's all I got.
Oh, so that's a great tease of what's to come, Vagabond John. I appreciate the call. And I honestly, I'll be honest with you all. Now, we have our regular callers. Nobody gets preferential treatment because I can't see who's calling in. There's nobody screening. There's nobody in the Ben Kenny Memorial producer booth over there. I'm just pressing buttons. So no callers get preferential treatment. However, if you call a ton, I'm going to know you and I'm going to know your takes. I was kind of just saving the Badgers topic for when I knew Vagabond John would eventually call in. So I want to talk about the 2023 offense, and I have some audio from our friend Jesse Temple to play for you. Him and Zach talked about it on the camp. But let's just talk about the bare bones story, which is the Badgers had no draft picks for the first time since 1978. Now, Vinny Anthony is a nice player. Vinny Anthony, I believe, signed or is going to have an opportunity to sign with the Falcons, I think is what I looked up earlier. Let me see here. Atlanta Falcons sign wide receiver as undrafted free agent. That's the Badgers player. Okay, so Falcons. So Vinny Anthony's a nice player, and if memory serves, he was a Badger all the way through. The funny thing is about the Badgers not having a single drafted player this year, and I tweeted this over the weekend at Wisco Grant, it's actually worse than it sounds on its face. On its face, it sounds pretty bad. The Badgers had something happen, or I guess more specifically, they had something not happen that has not happened in almost 50 years since 1978. That's bad. It's actually even worse under the hood because when you examine the players who were close to getting drafted for the Badgers, the player who was closest, who was the player, even in this year where the Badgers had nobody drafted, who's the player that was closest to getting drafted? It was Mason Reiger. Mason Reiger played here for 1 year. He was a transfer. He came from Louisville. And he was probably, we don't know this to be sure, but I would bet dollars to donuts that if he wasn't a player with a checkered injury history, maybe the Badgers aren't in on him because he costs more, because he's good, because he's an NFL player. He'd just been injured the last couple of years. So the Badgers get a bargain deal on him, bringing him in from Louisville. And wouldn't you know, he's healthy and he's great. So the Badgers shop in the bargain bin and it works out for him because the injury-riddled player stayed healthy. The player that was closest to getting drafted for the Badgers wasn't really even a Badger. He was really a Louisville Cardinal who stopped here for a year because he got a little money, but not a lot of money, because had he been healthy the last couple of years, he probably would have played his way right out of Wisconsin's budget. So when you say, oh, Wisconsin didn't have a player drafted, it's the first time since 1978, that sounds bad. It's actually worse than it sounds, considering the guy who was closest to getting drafted wasn't really even a Badger. Like, he was kind of a hired gun for a year. And yes, I know that's the current state of college football, and that's going to become commonplace. Yes, I know. But this Badgers program has developed, like, even guys who haven't been stars in college. Like, Herbig was good, but it's not like he was TJ Watt in college. And Leon Jacobs and not Numajong Meta, but Keanu Benton. These are solid players, but were not thought of as college superstars. When his second, third, fourth round picks in the NFL have been really good pros. Even when Wisconsin's teams haven't been awesome, they have been producing solid, quality, well-rounded football players. No more. Well, we almost had one drafted. Yeah, and he was a guy that you bought for a year and you got at the bargain bin because he's been injured, in Mason Reiger. God love him. He tested really well, and he seemed like a really good dude at the combine, for what it's worth, which should be very little, but I was there, so I'll mention the experience. It gets me a little something. Here is our friend Jesse Temple on the camp. This episode released earlier today with Zach Howard. You can find this wherever you find your podcasts. They have a YouTube channel that you should subscribe to, and it's available to watch and to listen to on our Wisco Sports Zone app. This is edited a little bit. Now, I'm not editing it to make Jesse say anything that he didn't say, but Jesse, I'm taking parts out of this. So if it sounds like it's brutal, harsh commentary, it's just edited to fit a smaller window. There's less hemming and hawing, which I just want from Jesse anyways. Just give me the cutting edge commentary. This is Jesse on the camp. You should listen to the full episode, but I cut a little bit just for the purposes of the show.
No draft picks for the first time since 1978, to me, is the ultimate indictment on where Wisconsin football has been under Luke Fickell these last couple of years. And there can be times when you don't have a very good team, but you at least have a couple players that are NFL draft pick worthy, even in recent seasons. I think we've seen that from Wisconsin. But overall, how many NFL draft picks has Wisconsin had under Luke Fickell? And some of those guys predated him. And I think it's tough when you see guys who were Badgers before and then left and had some success elsewhere. Skylar Bell is an example. Riley Nowakowski is an example.
Chimere Dike.
So
I was laughing cutting this audio because Zach just has these names in his back pocket. Skylar Bell, Riley Nowakowski, and Zach Chimere Dike.
And so CJ Williams came here.
What is it?
It's
Chimere Dike. There he is, Zach. Yeah. Is it Jesse's missing a couple? Chimere Dike.
And so CJ Williams came here and he didn't do very much. And then he goes to Stanford and he has what felt like 1 million catches for 11 million yards. Just numbers that you would have thought could be possible at Wisconsin. Guys are going elsewhere and finding more success.
So a little bit from Jesse Temple. I'll give you more here in a second. But Scott, with a great comment on the live stream, says the drop-off of Ricardo Hallman needs to be studied. 2 years ago, he led the nation in picks. Not sure he even got signed as an undrafted free agent. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been tracking that. I can look that up over the break, but you're right. Even if he signs as an undrafted free agent, Scott, it's a disappointment. Not for him, like, good for him. He's going to go have an opportunity to play in the NFL. But a year ago, before last season, we thought that Ricardo Hallman was either going to go to the NFL and be like a third or a fourth round pick, or he's going to come back and play at Wisconsin, make a bunch of money, and try to be a first, second round pick next year. And he didn't even get drafted. I didn't even think about him. So you're absolutely right. It's not just that players have left to go elsewhere. It's that players who were on positive tracks until recently completely fell off. Here's a little bit more from Zach and Jesse Temple, and they'll get us into my final thing that I want to talk about with the Badgers, which is the mentioned by Vagabond John, that 2023 offense.
Look at that 2023 offense in terms of guys that got drafted or on teams. The guys that left that ended up, Skylar Bell, DK, Nowakowski, CJ Williams. I don't think Will Plum got drafted, but did he get picked up by somebody? He signed as an undrafted free agent. That offense has put a ton of guys into the NFL. They weren't any good. If Mordecai played the entire year that year, I think we're looking at things differently. But the fact that all these guys went somewhere else and put up huge numbers suggests that the offense here and the people putting them in positions didn't do a good enough job.
It was a failure, of course.
I had to leave that in at the end. I forgot about that. Just to tie a nice little bow on that clip.
It was a failure, of course.
It was a failure, of course. So the 2023 offense, we're talking about some of these names: Skylar Bell, Chimere Dike, CJ Williams, Keontez Lewis, Will Pauling. The most shocking part, or the part that should piss you off, Badgers fans, the thing that should make you angriest about these players going on and having success and getting NFL shots being drafted elsewhere, is the majority of these guys have not gone to powerhouse programs. Now, Riley Nowakowski, for example, not a member of this 2023 team, but just to use as an example, he went to Indiana when Indiana's cooking, wins a national championship, and gets a shot now to play in the NFL. That's not a difficult dot to connect. He went from Wisconsin, left to go join a bigger, badder, better program, brighter lights, more exposure, gets drafted. CJ Williams went, where did CJ Williams play? I have this open. So Chimere Dike went to Louisville and then Florida, I believe. No. I'm turned around here. Chimere Dike went to Florida. I thought he had a stop at Louisville. Let me just triple check. And I'm sorry I don't have my ducks in a row here. CJ Williams. God, Pro Football Reference makes you click a bunch of stuff now. No, you don't care. Chimere Dike went Wisconsin. Okay, so he did just go to Florida. Keontez Lewis went to Oklahoma. That's not nothing. DK Florida, like I said. Where did CJ Williams go? Williams College. Is that Oklahoma? Stanford. That's right. So CJ Williams goes to Stanford when they're not what Stanford used to be. And they're playing Wisconsin in Rose Bowls with David Shaw, or, before with Harbaugh. DK goes to Florida, so that's not nothing. Keontez Lewis goes to Oklahoma. That's not nothing. Will Pauling goes to Notre Dame. That's not nothing. You want to know where Skylar Bell went, who's actually one of my favorite wide receivers in this class? Went to friggin' UConn. So you have players going to schools that are not, folks, they're not going to national championship contenders. These players are not transferring out to go to Bama or to go to, what was Bama, or go to Indiana, other than Nowakowski. These players are going to lesser or equal schools, or UConn, which I forget they have a football program. It's insane. So don't let Wisconsin off the hook. Do not, Badgers fans, let Wisconsin off the hook by saying, well, CJ Williams, Chimere Dike, Keontez Lewis, Will Pauling. Well, yeah, they left, but that's modern college football. Wisconsin doesn't have the money. Oh, no. It's not like these players left to go get massive paychecks from Indiana or from Texas. They went to the Big East. I would assume, is the Big East college football, or is like UConn and like the American or something, or the Patriot League? I don't even know. So don't let Fickle and don't let UW off the hook. I'm saying, well, that's college football. Their teams have been running. UConn doesn't. It's UConn. Could have used Skylar Bell. Just insane. We'll get back to the Packers after this. I just had to scratch my Badgers itch, because I think no Badgers drafted for the first time since 1978 is a massive story. And it's actually even worse when you look under the hood of how that came to be. Your emails, submit them for the Monday Mailbag. We'll close the show in about 25 minutes with the Monday Mailbag. GrantBills21@gmail.com. We'll get back to the Packers right after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Let me flag another guy for you. Deny Dennis Sutton from Penn State. 8.5 sacks each of the last 2 seasons at Penn State. So we're talking about an A tier program, probably not S tier, probably not a true blue blood anymore, right? But in the Big Ten, they play big games against Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana,
Wisconsin.
He had one of his best games against Wisconsin. He tore up Wisconsin. But he doesn't always play the way that you want him to for a guy with his athletic traits. He's one of the top 10 most athletic guys we've ever seen come through the combine. He jumped 10-11. You don't know what that means in the broad jump. It doesn't matter. No one really knows what that means, right? And he had a sub 7-second 3-cone. That would be good for a receiver. Okay. He's the only player in combine history to broad jump 10 foot 11 inches or better and run a 6'9" 3-cone. It has never happened. Von Miller didn't do it. J.J. Watt didn't do it. T.J. Watt didn't do it. Myles Garrett didn't do it. None of those guys did it. He is an all-time athletic outlier freak athlete. He played in the Big Ten. He produced. Can I interest you in a more Brian Gutekunst player? I don't think I can. Like, if he's the pick at 52, do not be surprised at all.
That's Peter Bukowski last week. The funny thing is, not only did the Packers pick this fella, they didn't take him at 52. In fact, they didn't even take him in the 3rd round at, whatever pick that would be. They took him in the 4th. So what pick would that be? I'm a normal human. I don't know. I just refer to them as rounds. Well, they used pick 76 to move up. Yeah, rounds. Use the round. 76, that means nothing to me. So they didn't take this denied Dennis Sutton guy in the 2nd round or in the 3rd round. They actually got him in the 4th. pretty good value. So Peter Bukowski with an excellent call, although I have long joked about Peter in group chats that, well, Peter, when you say that 50 guys in the draft are Packers guys, it's kind of hard to victory lap them. I told you, but you told us about 50 guys. But he called a shot on, this is on my show. That was a week ago today, I believe he was on. Peter Bukowski, Locked on Packers. I like this denied Dennis Sutton fella, and here's why. He tested well, athletic, jump out of the gym, blah, 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 all that stuff. Yes. Very goody player. But he actually produced in college. This is what I like. He had 12 sacks his senior year, he had 8.5 sacks his senior year, 8.5 sacks his junior year, 12 tackles for loss as a senior, 13 tackles as a loss as a junior, for a loss as a junior. You know what I'm saying? Rashawn Gary was top prospect, physical powerhouse. He had 3.5 sacks as a senior, 6.5 sacks as a sophomore, 6 sacks, not 6.5. 3.5 sacks as a senior. Well, everyone was double teaming him. Okay, all right. Well, he's raw. He's not running. Okay. He's a ball of clay. And then, 2 or 3 years later, it's like, well, sacks aren't everything. Okay, all right. You got to look at pressures. Okay, all right, I'll look at pressures. Jeez. And then 6 years in, it's like, well, yeah, he doesn't have any pressures, but you got to look at his double team. All right, I'm done. I'm done with the Rashawn Gary thing. I was done 3 years ago. So I know a lot of people hear about the measurables and the testing for denied Dennis Sutton, and they're like, oh, great, another Rashawn Gary. And maybe, but I mean, first of all, a young version of Rashawn Gary would actually be a nice piece on this roster right now. If you could take, 2020 Rashawn Gary right before he blew his knee and put him on this team, is not a superstar player, but I'd take that nice rotational player. But this is a guy who actually got home in college. He had 8.5 sacks in each of the last 2 years and a dozen or more tackles for loss. All right. I like that. I like a player who, sacks the quarterback. I know that pressures matter, and we talk about testing, and I want to see him convert speed to power, whatever they always say. I think another reason I'm so jaded towards the draft is people just saying phrases and words. I'm like, I don't think that means anything. I think you're just pleasuring yourself a little bit, just using phrases. Well, fluid hips. Okay. Sure. Jared and DeForest, following up on my Wisconsin criticism, says Stanford is an adjacent move, better program than UConn, no doubt. My point being, CJ Williams went to Stanford, Skylar Bell went to UConn. They both downsized and were better players and get in the NFL. Stanford, I guess I wasn't following Stanford closely. I don't consider Stanford adjacent to Wisconsin at this moment. Maybe 10 years ago, I think there's actually a time where maybe they were similar programs, but Stanford's just had such ups and downs. I don't know. Maybe Stanford had a great year last year. I don't think if you asked 100 people, hey, a player went from Wisconsin to Stanford, what would you say? I don't think so. Oh, lucky player. He's joining a real good program. He'll get a better opportunity there. I think that's how that works. Skylar Bell going to UConn and being awesome and getting drafted should infuriate you, Badgers teams. That should make you so angry. I'm to the point now where I'm almost apathetic because I don't believe in this coaching staff. So I'm like with the Badgers, I'm like with the Badgers like a lot of you are with the Packers. Oh, well, until they get rid of Matt LaFleur, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Until they get rid of Luke Fickell, I just don't really believe in this coaching staff. And I know that, well, they've invested and they brought in more players. Okay. I still don't, can you coach them? Can you get the best out of them? Good in-game decision-making? That type of stuff? I don't know. I like the Packers draft, though. I'm not going to complain about that. And I still believe in Matt LaFleur on some level. We can hear a little bit from the coach. There's a couple questions, including one from our Mike Clemens that I thought was good. The Packers drafted a center in this draft, but that was the only move they made on the O-line. And I think Mike is maybe on the concerned end of the spectrum about the O-line. He's been bringing that up on this show and on Bill's show now for the better part of the last 2 or 3 weeks. Here's his question to Matt LaFleur on offensive line depth. I have another cut from Gutekunst on this subject, but we'll start with Mike Clemens and Matt LaFleur.
Matt, an offensive line with Rashid and Elton moving on, how do you feel about your depth there? Did Jacob Muck, for example, did he take a step up toward the end of the season?
It's going to be a competitive situation in regards to who makes the squad and who can add depth. Certainly, it stinks that a guy like Monk is coming off an injury, but I thought he showed some things at the tail end of the season when he got a little bit of time. So, we're hopeful for all these guys, to continue to push and just show improvement.
It's really not much there. I thought it was a really good question from Mike. There's not really an answer there. I'm sorry. I thought we were all out on Jacob Monk, by the way. He never even sniffed any playing time. Was he hurt all of last year? I just kind of left him on the side of the road. Is he a factor now again? I know Bill and Mike were talking about him earlier today. I guess we'll see. Jacob Monk for me is like Marshawn Lloyd in that I'm not really expecting anything from him, but it's not because of injuries. It's because I don't think he's any good. And I guess he could pop in year 3. Some players take a while. Brian Gutekunst talked about that. We'll hear that comment too. But here's good direct question from Bill Huber on, hey, Brian, Jordan Morgan's your left tackle. If he gets hurt, what are you going to do?
What would you do at left tackle if something happened to Jordan?
We got a number of guys that could probably play there. I mean, certainly Zach could go over there and play there. We got Kennard could play there. Belton could play there. We got a number of guys that could do that.
So I don't want to move Zach Tom. I don't want to move Zach Tom. I don't want to move Zach Tom. Have I made that clear? I would not like to move Zach Tom. Kennard, maybe. I guess some film guru would have to tell me how Kennard played last year. I know they also have liked using Kennard as a tight end, as a 6th offensive lineman. But if he's starting a tackle, he can't do that. I also think they were doing that a little bit out of necessity because their entire tight end room was hurt, except for Luke Musgrave, who's mostly useless in blocking. He can go out and catch passes a little bit, but he's not going to give them what they need in the absence of Wiley, Fitzpatrick, or Kraft. So they start using Kennard as a 6th offensive lineman, but if he's got to play tackle, he can't do that. I don't want to move Zach Tom. They must really, really believe in Anthony Belton to think that he could be their swing tackle. I also feel like he might start at right guard. Or here's another situation. What if this center is good and he pops right away? Well, then is Sean Ryan your right guard? Okay, well then maybe Belton's your swing tackle. I don't know if he could be good at it. I don't know. That geometry makes more sense to me. Because the way I see it, they don't have a swing tackle. I mean, I don't trust Kennard as a swing tackle. So unless it's Belton, the way I see it, they don't have a swing tackle. Here's Brian Gutekunst's question from Jason Wilde talking about finding good offensive linemen in the middle rounds, developing them, being patient with them. I just think this is a good piece of audio.
We've had so much success with 4th and 5th round offensive linemen. Why do you think that's?
I think along the way, we've been really committed to, developing those guys and allowing those guys to develop. We've had excellent coaches in that room preparing those guys to play in the National Football League. Again, I think not just in the offensive line room, but I think we've done a pretty good job here allowing guys to develop, to go through the ups and downs. Sometimes I get on myself for not being patient enough with those guys, not just the offensive linemen, but our roster as a whole. Ted was excellent at that. I think that's one of the things that, you look at a lot of those guys. Some of those guys played really early. David Bakhtiari, Josh Sitton, guys like that, other guys like TJ Lang, it took them a little bit, right? But when once they were ready to play, they were really good players for us. So I also think we take a lot of swings at it too.
So I wonder, talking about the development and the patience with O-linemen, and Jacob Monk mentioned once or twice today, I wonder if they, behind closed doors, still believe that Jacob Monk can be something. We have seen nothing over these last years to indicate that. But that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. And that answer had me thinking, it's because when Goody's saying that, it's like, okay, who could this apply to? Who's on the roster that this could apply to? And I guess maybe Jacob Monk, maybe there could be something there. We can take a break here. I have a couple of more comments. We can circle back and talk about the kicker a little bit too, because I just think that's a hilarious story. And remember, at the end of the show, the Monday mailbag, submit your questions, grantbills21@gmail.com.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin weather doesn't ease into spring. It keeps you guessing. That's why Powell Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, we build for year-round comfort. Now get 0% interest until 2030. That's years of no interest, so you can upgrade now and pay over time. Plus, enjoy a free in-home consultation, expert installation, and a 10-year limited warranty. But order by April 30th. Schedule today at PellaWI.com.
Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
need to get Jaden Reed signed for the long haul?
That's big time. I think you talk about a guy that's a culture setter and the epitome of what we want representing our football team in regards to just how he prepares and how he goes out there and plays. And he never takes a play off. And you're always going to get his best. And I think one thing that's unique about him is just his ability to, bring others with him. I think he's a real leader for us.
Matt LaFleur asked about Jaden Reed and giving a little bit more there than I would have expected. Giving more than would have been expected in the media. Coaches giving non-answers, GMs giving non-answers. Matt LaFleur being pretty honest there. Jaden Reed, we appreciate what he does as a player, but, in that 45 seconds there talks a lot more about who he is as a leader. Okay. All right. Just learning a little bit here. Example setter at practice, right? Leader to guide the way or to, bring other guys, younger guys along, as Matt LaFleur said. Okay, just noticing. Find it interesting. Matt LaFleur was also asked, and I think this is a little bit of a walking back, if you will, because remember at the owners' meetings or whatever that was in Phoenix, I think it's just called the NFL, the league meetings. It's not the owners' meetings like in baseball. It's just the league meetings where Matt LaFleur kind of out of nowhere, unprompted, offered that there were guys unhappy about their roles last year, and it affected the team. So Jason Wilde asked about this today, and this kind of goes along those same lines as Jaden Reed, being an example or going about his business the right way.
Did that dynamic end up being tougher than maybe you thought? Like, you genuinely tried to keep all those guys happy, and we don't know who the people were that weren't happy with their roles, but I know wide receivers as a group oftentimes aren't the happiest people with their targets. So
the one thing I will say is you want guys that want the football. So, I thought, it was a problem. It was a good problem in regards to, we felt like we had a lot of people capable of going out there and making the necessary plays. And
it was a problem. It was a good problem. This is why I bookmarked this comment from LaFleur. It just sounds a little bit like he's walking back what he said at the league meetings when he said there were guys unhappy with their role and it took a toll on our football team last year. And now he's telling us, okay, it was a problem, but it was a good problem to have. I need to parse this out and understand why he's saying this now.
But I thought, it was a problem. It was a good problem in regards to, we felt like we had a lot of people capable of going out there and making the necessary plays. And quite frankly, I still feel that way with whether it's, we all know who our three leaders are out the gate, but I mean, guys like Savion.
So who would the leaders be? He said three leaders out the gate. Just talk normally, please. But okay.
Whether it's, we all know who our three leaders are out the gate, but
so would that be Love, Kraft, Jacobs? Love, Jacobs, Parsons? Loves, Kraft, Parsons? But then again, he just talked about what a big important leader Jaden Reed is. It's just a combination of a lot of phrases and things from Matt LaFleur, and I'm trying to parse it all out.
Whether it's, we all know who our three leaders are out the gate, but I mean, guys like Savion who can continue to develop. You got Bo Melton that certainly made a ton of big plays for us in his past. There's still competition there. And then there's some unproven guys that are going to try to go out there and earn it.
Just a big word salad of an answer. Again, walking back a little bit what he said at the league meetings. We had a problem last year. Guys unhappy with their role or it took a toll on the team. And now he's telling me it was a problem. It's a great problem. And we all know who our leaders are. It's like, well, please tell me who? I guess it's assumed I love Parsons, Kraft, Jacobs. I would guess three or four of those guys. Maybe I'm just more agitated listening to Matt LaFleur these days. Like, I'll give you an example here of a piece of sound that I cut because it annoyed me at the time. I don't think there's anything bad about it, but Ryan Wood asked Matt LaFleur if, like, the spirit of now having three kickers on the roster, what's that all about? Like, this annoyed me.
Is it still competition? The reason I ask that is because you don't trade up to get a kicker in the draft.
It's always competition. Always.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm turning into one of you people. Like, there's an arrogance with Matt LaFleur pressers. I'm like, hey man, can you not? Like, Belichick was a prick, but he won how many Super Bowls? Like, Belichick won as many Super Bowls as Matt LaFleur loses games in a row at the end of the year every year. Now I find myself agitated listening to him talk. And it's not personal. It's just, I don't know. I'll flesh this out a little bit better. Let's take a call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ridge Runner Mark, how are we doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent, Ridge Runner.
So, I don't want to call myself a Matt LaFleur apologist, but you know me, glass half full, all that shenanigans. I think specifically to the three leaders, I'm wondering if he was more talking about the wide receiver room. Because you've got your three guys. You've got Watson, Reed, and Golden. Those are your top three, and then everyone else is kind of coming along.
That could be, that's probably it. I think you're probably right.
Yeah. I think your challenge, and you bring up a good point, your frustration with him is all we can go on right now is how crappily the season ended. So everything he says is just going to feel frustrating because it's like, yeah, you've said that before, but guess what? You lost. Now what? And until we see practice, until we see players not getting hurt like Marshawn Lloyd, till we see, actual wins under our belt later in the year, the first of the year, we're always going to feel this way because we got that bad taste in our mouth because they played like crap towards the end of the season.
Well, for the second year in a row, too. I think we shouldn't lose track of that. It's not like it was just a thing that happened last year. Like, it's been going on now. It's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, and he started off really well. He went 13-3 for 2 or 3 years in a row?
Mm-hmm.
And, what was that tied to? Was that tied to he had a really good roster or he had a really good system and now all of a sudden it's changed? And is it Matt LaFleur or is it the personnel around him or just really, really crappy luck? I feel like really, really crappy luck is part of it. And the other part of it is we keep pointing to Belichick and the Patriots and everything they've done, which is such an outlier.
Yeah.
Why are we holding every other team to that standard?
So
how many?
That's a bit of a straw man. So I got to get to the mailbag, Ridge Runner. I appreciate it. I referenced Belichick because he was a pill at the podium. Yes, the Patriots succeeded at a much higher level than everybody else, and we shouldn't hold our own teams to that standard. I'm not holding them to the standard of the Patriots. I'm comparing them to teams like the Eagles or the Rams or the Niners. I know the Niners haven't won one, but the Rams have, the Eagles have. Those are the teams that I'm comparing them to. It's going to be 20 years since they've won a Super Bowl before too long. It's not ridiculous. First of all, I haven't even mentioned Super Bowls. I haven't even mentioned the Patriots other than Bill Belichick being a pill at the podium. And to your point about the end of the seasons, it's happened in each of the last 2 years. They've had different players on both of the teams, not a ton, but guys have rotated in and out. Maybe a little bit of bad luck, but I watched a team at the end of the season last year that just didn't punch above their weight. The Niners did. I keep bringing up the Niners because the Niners were hit just as hard by injury as the Packers were. Just as hard. They lost Bosa. They lost Warner. They might have even been hit harder than the Packers, if you can believe it, but certainly just as hard. And they kept scrapping and fighting, and they were punching above their weight and winning games until their talent literally no longer allowed them to do so. I think the Packers were the opposite. They underperformed and underachieved because, after Denver, what's it all about anyways? We don't have a chance, so let's just mail it in or, let's just get to the end of the season. All right. An amalgamation of some different Packers topics there at the end of the segment. But the Monday mailbag will conclude the show. So submit your questions on all things, sports or non-sports. GrantBills21@gmail.com. I will answer them next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Because the mail never stops. Charles, we'll be writing to you.
She's got mail. That's the name of the book.
That's it, honey. There's never a let up. It's relentless. Every day it piles up more and more and more. And you got to get it up. And the more you get out, the more it keeps coming in.
The Monday Mailbag. I'll get to your questions here in just a moment, but we have a little extra time. So I'm going to take a call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Well.
I knew it.
Grant Bill.
Good evening, Eric. We got about 2 or 3 minutes. What's going on tonight?
I think you guys. I think they were listening to the Wisco Sports Show. Goody, listening to the Wisco Sports Show. Get a cornerback. Boom, they did it. Last year he wanted a wide receiver. Boom, they did it. And an offensive and a center. Grant.
A true center.
They were listening. A true center. No, you just keep doing that year after year. You're going to have that.
keep screaming into the abyss. Eventually, I think it's more of a blind squirrel, nut, broken clock, once a day type thing. But you're right.
Right. And a kicker. I thought the kicker was a good idea too.
Yeah, we're back, Eric. Remember 2 or 3 years ago, and we had to follow along with the Anders Carlson of it all. We're so back.
You know what? That Anders Carlson thing was your special teams coordinator and the nepotism that came with him.
Yeah,
That's why you got Keyshawn Nixon as your best cornerback.
Keyshawn Millhouse Nixon.
That's really what that was. I really like that guy. He's a good kick returner. And he moved his way all the way up to that. Out of just, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and then he didn't want to do kick returning anymore. So I guess the Packers said, all right, fine. You don't have to.
Right. And he got to be the top cornerback only because of absenteeism of a decent cornerback, right?
Yeah. But I'm not going to hold that against him. Lots of players get their first opportunity to play that way, and if you play well.
No. Right. But also, I think Packers did really good. Vikings, I was surprised by the Vikings. Did O'Connell just go, wow, the defense won most of our games. We don't even need offense. So we're just drafting all defense.
Well,
it was pretty wild.
They got to keep Brian Flores happy. Eric, I got to run because I got to open this mailbag up. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Yep.
I love the swing that the Vikings took in the first round. Some guy who was a reach by a round or two, according to a lot of people. But without a GM to blame, whatever. If it doesn't work out, fine. Let's crack open the mailbag. Just a couple questions today. We will start with Tony in Texas. Grant, in honor of draft weekend, if the United States drafted you to join the military, what would you do? A, move to Canada. B, move to Mexico. C, fake a mental or physical health issue, or D, crap your pants and join? I would join. I would crap my pants first, but I would join. I don't know. I would join. I can do my duty for my country. I'm a young, able-bodied man. And I'm not just saying that on the air. If I was going to tuck tail and run to Canada, I've admitted much less embarrassing things, or much more embarrassing things on the show. No, I would join. I would dump my pants and I'd be scared, but I'd get over it. Because then if I joined the military and I, hopefully came home at the end of the conflict, then I could hold it over everyone younger than me for the next 50 years. Like the World War I and World War II people did, then I would have that. I could hold that. So that would be my reward coming home and, seeing my loved ones, such. Tyler in Massachusetts. Hey, Grant, I saw a New York Post article about a recent study revealing that millions of sports fans in the USA are at risk of being hacked due to passwords which are related to their favorite teams. Shockingly, more than 42 million passwords linked to sports teams have been compromised in data breaches. Have you ever used Craig Counsell in a disparaging way to form a password? No, that would be classless and tasteless. No, I use the same word as my password for everything, like a proper American. It does not include Craig Counsell. Scott says, great kicker material on the show. Like a caddisfly hatch you didn't see coming. I knew it would be. You're cruising through the old stomping grounds of the Menominee area on a Friday night, and you have an unlimited budget and you're hungry. Where do you eat? It says Jake's, Ted's Pizza, Coyotes, Den, Logjam, Lucette, somewhere else. I was talking with this Scooter in Eau Claire. Thanks, Scooter. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday who lives in Menominee. I think Lucette's so good, man. I love Jake's and Ted's and Coyotes. I love a lot of places in Menominee. Wilson Creek's really good. If anyone, this is for a small portion of the listening audience, but hey, it was brought up in the mailbag. What do you want me to do? I wish I could get in a time machine and go back to the old Bolo, which is where Marketplace is now. Only heard tell of the place, but it seemed like the place to be. And I never got to go because, well, they built a Marketplace. I guess I was born too late. Goose Eggs, Lee in the Western City says, Grant, I hope you feel honored to play on the same field where I set the record for the most hit by pitches in an 8th grade club baseball game for Chaseburg. 11 times in 16 games. Yeah, you're a real Wilson Contreras. I appreciate you scheduling your gigs around dates that work for me. You're the best. What can we expect this Saturday? Yes, we are playing Saturday at the Chaseburg Ball Field. Come on out. It's the Coon Creek Community Watersheds Council Confluence event. It's a blast. They do it every May. And in previous years, it's coincided with the Bill Michaels golf outing. This year, they're in back-to-back weekends, so I get a reason to come back to the district, the Driftless region, as Eric on I-90 would call it. Set list, I don't know. We got to figure that out this week, so thank you. It'll be good music. It'll be a fun trio. It'll be a really fun show. And Molly B, the headliner, is really good. So you can look up the Facebook event if you're interested. I shared it on Facebook for what it's worth. Grant Bills on Facebook. You can find it. Tomorrow, we will circle back and we'll hit more draft. Maybe we can have a draft expert or a Packers expert on to break down some of these players, their film, the details. We'll also get more back into the swing of what the Brewers are doing as well, because we underserved that topic a little bit today. And while the draft is the big story, it's still baseball season, and I'm not someone who ventures too far off the path during baseball season. So we'll certainly return to that. Have a nice